And we are back, finally coming to you about an hour, over an hour, really over an hour late now. But listen, it's a hell of a time right now. like we
It
we
certainly is. We currently broke the record
we
for latest showing right now so
we
far.
did, but that's okay. So welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad,
I'm Miguel.
and it is good to finally be back. This is the show that we were supposed to do on Saturday morning, but now we are finally here to talk Resident Evil with the new trailer for the Netflix series coming out. This is something that we've wanted to talk about for a long time, something that's kind of weighed on me as a big Resident Evil fan for a long time. Why can't we get a live adaptation of Resident Evil right, Miguel? That's the question of the evening, is why is it so difficult? And really, even looking further, looking past Resident Evil, looking at video game adaptations, like why are video game adaptations so difficult to translate to the big screen, whether it's in a TV series, whether it's in like a full feature length film? You know, Resident Evil is a prime example of like it's always struggled, I think, to please everybody. And granted, you're never going to please fans. You're never going to completely please everybody,
Mm-hmm.
But they've taken some listen, those Resident Evil live action films, whether we're talking Welcome to Raccoon City, whether we're talking the Paul W.S. Anderson series, like they've taken some wild turns over the years. So
Yeah, and I'm sure there's
that's the
like
question.
multiple areas in regards to like why that is the case. Why video game adaptations just don't seem to hit. So I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's multiple reasons behind it, but I mean, I'm sure we're going to go through most of them today.
Yeah. And I don't know. I Resident Evil is the one that kind of clings to me because if you're a Resident Evil fan, which I mean, both of us are, I've said this numerous times, Resident Evil is the thing that got me into horror. I mean, if you look at the history of Resident Evil was, when it came out in 1996, I believe, Resident Evil literally defined the survival horror genre in video games. It did. Um, it was the first real survival horror video game. It was really the first survival horror, piece in that genre. And the story is so rich, the lore is so rich. Like there's so much to pull from, and I think that may be part of where the issue lies. You know what I mean? Is
Mm-hmm.
that there's so much source material to pull from, and I mean that's I think part of the reason that you can never please everybody is because there are certain, everybody's fans of different aspects of that source material. So it's like, if you throw in, X, Y, and Z, all the people that wanted A, B, and C to be in there are going to be like, oh, come on, man, why did you? But you know what I mean? They're gonna be like, well, you didn't put in the part that I wanted to see. Like, I think that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll really dive into this a little bit more. First off, though, I want to do a beer review because we haven't done a beer
You've
review
never
in a long
had the
time.
garage?
No, is this new?
No, it's not new.
Oh, well, I've never
I've
had it.
had that before.
So this is Braxton Brewing Company in Covington, Kentucky. Got to get local. This is
Mm-hmm.
their garage beer, and it's got that classic, just it looks kind of plain and vanilla like a garage looks. So I can't get the can open.
Are you
But that's
serious, bro? It's a can.
I know, but it's my finger's not big enough to get under the little hole.
Do you mean small enough? Because I've met some. I've
Yeah,
met some pretty. I've met some individuals with some fat ass fingers, and like I have
there
to
we
help
go.
them
Ooh,
crack
ooh,
open a
ooh.
cold one.
We got it foaming a little bit.
You're gonna suck on the foam, and then you're gonna give us a taste. No, don't do that.
Yep, yep. Now for the
You got to
pour.
give it like a full on.
For the pour. Oh shit, I'm spilling. For the pour.
That's such.
That was the worst pour. You saw that, right? You saw that spill.
Guys,
Saw it
in the
happen. I
comments,
know
let
you
me
did.
know. Should I teach him how to pour a beer? Because
I
obviously this
know
may
how
need
to
some help.
pour a beer.
Are we sure about that?
Okay, I may have done a crappy job, but let me live, Miguel. Let me have my time to shine.
See, as a friend, I
Hello.
can't let you live like that, though.
you can't
So
you can't let me go
it's
down
like
like
it's like I grab you on the shoulder, and it's like
the
I'm
color.
gonna
The
help you
color.
out.
It's got a good color. It's got that nice amber herd. No color. If it was Amber Heard color, it would be brown because she poops on people's beds. I'm kidding. All right, here for the taste test.
Oh my
Braxton
God.
Garage.
Does it taste like fecal matter on a mattress?
No, it's pretty good.
Okay.
I like it. Just like typical beer. Tastes like beer.
It's
good.
It's just a good old American beer. There you go. We do
It's
not
got
have
a
the
little-
knowledge
it's got a little bit
to
of hop. It's got a little bit of
a
hoppiness.
little bit of
to it.
hop. What is a
Little
hop,
hop.
my guy?
What?
What is a hop?
The hoppiness is like the wheat flavor.
Okay, good. I was concerned.
I know. I know
understand
beer,
hop.
bro. I know beer.
We all know beer.
Water droplet on my glasses.
Mm.
By the way, if you see me wearing glasses, I did not get. I have perfect vision, but
His eyes are not bad.
No,
They're just bad.
My they don't suck. They just suck. My eyes are light sensitive though. Like I have 20/20 vision, but they are sensitive to light. So like that's why I got these bad boys to see if hopefully, since I'm staring at a screen so much between the show and between my job and looking at my phone, and I'm on a screen a lot, so we'll see if these help. I mean, I'm not wearing them all the time. This is honestly, doing this show is the first time I've worn them. So, and there is a little bit of there's a slight difference
Tough
in
life.
tint to everything. I know, right?
Tough life.
I'm glad.
As for all the people that live their life in a
can
blur and
see.
have to pay to be able to see,
It's actually really bad.
we have to pay,
You
a
have to
certain
pay
amount
to
of
be able
money
to
just
see
so we
it.
can
Don't do
see
that.
clearly. So I mean, it's all right. It's whatever.
It's fair. That is fair. So, before we get into this discussion, full disclaimer, and I think it's important that we say this: we are fans of Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil series, as well as the brand new Johannes Roberts' most recent adaptation of the two games, Welcome to Raccoon City. We enjoy those films quite a lot, if I might add. But with that being said, again, this is something that's bothered me for a long time. I don't think Resident Evil has ever reached its full potential of what it could be in a live action setting. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that for almost every single one of these video game adaptations, honestly.
Even like the Mortal Kombat type stuff, you know what I mean?
Oh, don't even start on Mortal Kombat. That's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
Like, even like I think that was the first like video game adaptation that we've gotten.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. So yeah, and look how much of a travesty that. Well, the first one was all right, but the sequels were fucking trash, dog. So with that being said, why is it that every single time we get excited for a video game adaptation and then we just get completely disappointed at the end?
Well, for me,
I will say one thing, because we probably don't have the answer for it, but there is one movie, one franchise in particular that's doing pretty well as an adaptation, and I'll let you figure out which one that is.
Which one are you talking about?
It's recent, more recent. It already has a sequel. It started out with a lot of hate with the sneak peek. They changed a bunch of shit. They changed one specific.
Are you talking about Sonic? Yeah,
Sonic.
I haven't seen either one of them, so I can't really comment on how well of a job they did. I haven't.
Well,
they look
as
fun.
Far as I'm concerned,
they look fun.
Yeah,
they look like a good time.
And as far as I'm concerned, guys, if there's another like video game adaptation that you guys swear up and down that you think does the video game justice or even surpasses it, please let me know. Like, put it down in the comments because I'd love to check them out.
Yeah.
Because overall, my experience with like video game adaptations are pretty terrible. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So far, Sonic is the only one that I know that is decently adapted from the video games, and that's it. Yeah. Other than that, I can't think of anything else that truly does the video games justice.
Well, first of all, this beer is like a 7. It's a solid 7.0 for me. I'm going to give it a solid 7.0.
Yeah, I was like, you didn't even give it a taste.
Second of all, my brain kind of goes to two things. First of all, I think in a video game, you know, you have to think about the gameplay, like especially if you're adapting it for a series or a series or like a full feature film. The gameplay matters, and how you translate that, how you present that on the big screen matters, because you know when you know I don't know if you think of your favorite video game, like honestly I'm thinking of like Prototype was the first one that came to mind. If you remember Prototype from like 2012, 13, somewhere in there, maybe
Mm-hmm.
even before that. I loved that game, but again, how you would present that game presented itself almost like an open world Spider-Man game. That's kind of how it presented itself, but with a Resident Evil style story. How you translate these things to the screen matters. Um, and I think, you know, with Resident Evil, what Welcome to Raccoon City got right was they did kind of go back to some of the survival horror elements, and it was kind of creepy crawly, and there were jump scares, and it was more of a horror movie. Whereas the Paul W.S. Anderson films, the first one, I could say that was a horror movie. It was there were some scary moments in it. Uh, the second one, okay. I mean, we had Alice drop kicking Nemesis, which was interesting, but like, you know, as especially the Paul W.S. Anderson series went on, um, it became much more of an action. It was really more of an action movie than it was a zombie, you know, supernatural horror movie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think how you present the switch to live action matters. The other thing is, again, going back to the source material. Like, I think about, you know, if you think about the story for Resident Evil, 28 entries, 26, 7, 27, 28 entries in this franchise, like, that's a lot of source material. And you know it's good source material when all the spin, like you have so many spin-offs that kind of connect everything and just like weave their way, they like weave their way through the story, you know what I mean? So I think,
Yeah.
again, you're never going to satisfy anybody, because you're going to have to leave things out, you know what I mean? If you know, we even said this in our trailer reaction for the Resident Evil Netflix series a couple days ago. um you know, if you were to put in everything that you really wanted to put in, especially from a video game series like Resident Evil, into a movie or a TV show, you would. I mean, it would be a whole season, or it would be a 4 or 5 hour movie if you really wanted to do that, and you can't do that, you know. So I don't know. Those are kind of two things, and you also have to think about, like, not everybody is going to. You also have to present it in a way, again, general audiences. What are general audiences going to want to see? What are they going to be interested in? What are they going to want to watch? You know what I mean? I think
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing that you have to think about too, because a general audience member is not going to want to sit through 2.5 hours of story on a game they've never played and know nothing about, you know? So it's a very fine line.
Why
In
not
terms of,
though?
I
Why?
mean, I
But
don't
why is that? Because I mean, people sit through and they go through the cutscenes of
right.
their first run through of Resident Evil, and that's what hooks them in. So I mean, like,
Well,
why is that? And that was targeted towards the general audience as well. So my
or
question
you
is,
could,
why is there a difference in the experience with video game lovers and moviegoers?
but I mean, you could even, that's a good point, honestly. And you could even argue that people go, when you know, when you see a standalone film, you know, an original film in the movie theater, and you see a trailer and you're like, hey, that looks pretty good. You know, you don't know anything about
Mm-hmm.
it. You don't know anything about the lore. You don't really have any expectations. You just, why do people go see that? You know, so that's a good
Mm-hmm.
point too. This is what I wanted this to be, kind of a discussion. And if you're watching after the fact, please let us know. Some of you might look at this thumbnail and be like, what are they talking about? Like, it hasn't struggled. And listen, I don't mean financial struggle. I don't mean
Box
success.
office struggle. Yeah,
That's
no.
not what I mean. I mean, from a fan perspective, I am speaking as a fan of the video games. Why is it that as a fan, I have always felt slightly what's the word? I don't know, not disappointed. Disappointed isn't the right word, because I enjoyed seeing all of them. I mean, they were fun. Um
Under
I don't
enthusiastic.
I've always wanted
Under
more, I
enthused.
think. That's a
Yeah.
good way of putting it. I've always wanted more. out of it, more than we've ever gotten.
You felt unsatisfied with them, so
Yeah,
to speak.
yeah, and not completely unsatisfied. Now, I mean, I didn't walk away from Resident Evil the final chapter going, "Well, that was crap. Like that was awful. That was, you know what I mean?" I didn't think that.
Mhm.
You know, listen, my dad, other than the first one and maybe the second one, definitely the third one, because I remember when the trailer for Resident Evil Extinction dropped. And I know from Extinction to the final chapter, we saw every single one in the theater. I don't think I was old enough to see. I was still pretty young when the first one came out, and then I don't believe I saw Apocalypse in the movie theater too, but I saw Extinction, Afterlife, Retribution, and the final chapter in the movie theater. And they were fun. I had a blast. We looked forward to doing that. Listen, there was a jump scare. There is a jump scare at the end, or right at the it's in like the first 5 minutes of the final chapter, where Alice looks into a lake and a zombie it's one of the Resident Evil 5 ones where it like the stuff like comes out of its mouth, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like the tendrils coming out, and it jumps out at her, and we were both like, oh. like it was a scary scene. Like it was a good jump scare. They have their moments. But you know, let's kind of look at the two big live action adaptations we have so far. We have the Paul W.S. Anderson films, and we have Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which is, you know, the more fresh. We did a whole review to that. You can check that out on our channel as well. I think it's it's in the 50s, I believe. It's like 53 or something like that. You know, what was your biggest deal? I'm curious if we're on the same page. What was your now that you've had time to kind of think about it, and it's not really fresh anymore. What was your biggest issue with Welcome to Raccoon City?
It was the fact that it's pretty much what I've said before, and it's something that I'm sure I will reiterate like till the day I die, unless they do something different with it. Is the fact that like this Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City is a good zombie movie. It's just the fact that they placed the tagline that it's Resident Evil and it's Raccoon City is why it doesn't hit the mark. Not saying it sucks. I'm saying it just does not hit the mark, because when you put that tag on there, you want to see true representation of all those characters.
Yeah.
And what I didn't quite understand was the amount of liberties that they took for these established characters, because there's a difference between changing the appearance of these characters and changing the way they act. And I'm sure the one you'll definitely agree with me on is Leon Kennedy. Is Leon Kennedy in the movie, in the video games, is a scared rookie cop in the first introduction of him. He's a scared rookie cop.
He is scared, but he's not like a blubbering idiot, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's got some common sense.
He is not a Drake.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is not Drake Bell from Drake and Josh.
I got you.
He is not Drake Bell. I swear to God. But they made him look out to be. Like, honestly, that's the way it could be.
The thing that killed me with Leon, well, two things is, first of all, it acted like he didn't know how to use a gun. Like when the guy turns into a zombie and when they're in like the jail cell room at the bottom of the Raccoon Police Department, and he's like, I don't know, like he misses a bunch and he can't get it loaded, and it's just like what, bro? Like, well, dude, he went through the police academy, like here. Yeah, but he still would have had to go through the police academy. They wouldn't have passed.
Yeah, I know, but that bad. I think I remember from the movie that he accidentally shot someone, and that's why he got transferred.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think that's what happened. Well, again, it's really, really like it's been a while since I've seen it, but you guys should understand the perspective I'm coming from is the fact that you have a really like established zombie character in zombie genre, in the genre of zombies. You have an established character, a staple, if you will, because you have obviously The Walking Dead and Rick Grimes. You have Leon Kennedy with Resident Evil, and you also have I forgot his name. What's his name? And 28 Weeks Later.
Cillian Murphy's character.
Cillian Murphy. Yeah.
He's only in 28 days, though.
Yeah, but like when you think of like as much of a zombies,
I don't know. There's a few different staples you could
I would
say.
say.
There's a
Yeah,
few different.
but
There's a few different ones.
okay, fair. But you get what I'm saying is there are so many staple characters over here, and we know how they act, we know what they do, and we know their
Yeah.
story. So for the direction that they took for Leon is what really just, put a sour taste in a lot of our mouths. When we saw Leon Kennedy, we were expecting a badass, but we
Yeah.
didn't get a badass. We got Drake Bell, I guess. And I know Drake Bell's
Well,
doing some shit right now, so I don't mean
the
to compare
thing
him, but
the thing that killed me about Leon is especially when he's sitting at the desk and he's got those 90s headphones. It's like, bro, come on, they're not Beats. Like you'd be able to hear that semi that crashes out in the front, and he's sitting there and he's just asleep at the desk or whatever, and the semi crashes and there's an explosion and it's raining and all this stuff is going on, and homeboy walks in. That was stupid, him having like walking in on fire. He just kind of like.
Yep, and he just falls over, and
He
guess
just
what?
walks
Leon
in
is still
and
on his
then
fucking CD player.
yeah, and it's like, dude, what? Like
Yeah.
you would have heard that, you would have felt that. So I didn't agree with the characterization. My biggest issue of Welcome to Raccoon City was the amount of source material that they cut out in order to just do the Raccoon City storyline.
Yeah, so this is what I figured was what they did. They saw the entire storyboard, they had all the source material, and they didn't think about, okay, how can we line this up correctly? It's, okay, everyone knows about that story, everyone knows about this story, everyone knows about those stories. So let's pull them together, throw them in an hour and a half, and then people will be happy.
Yeah.
Because it was all about eye candy at that point in regards to the story.
My thought is that entire movie should have taken place at the mansion. Welcome to Raccoon City. And I don't know, maybe it couldn't have been called Welcome to Raccoon City, but this Resident Evil reboot should have entirely been an adaptation. I hit my mic. It should have just been an adaptation of the first game.
Are you sure those guys are prescriptions?
Yeah. Right.
Brother can't see right now. Jesus.
I really liked the mansion stuff. I thought the stuff at the mansion was the best part of that entire movie. I think the Raccoon City outbreak deserves its own, and I know they're related. I mean, they are related, but the Raccoon City outbreak and the mansion incident should have been their own thing. That they should have, they can bleed into each other because they do bleed into each other. I mean, they take place, right after one another, or as a result of the other, I should say. But the mansion stuff was so good, and I think you could have really told if you would have started with the Bravo team thing, and you would have, then Alpha Team comes to save them or whatever, and then they get chased in by the dogs, and you tell the whole mansion story, and it's them uncovering this whole conspiracy about Umbrella and what's going on with the viral testing. Like that could have been a really, really cool movie. And if you would have ended that movie, you could have ended that first film with the beginning of the Raccoon City outbreak, similar to what happened. And I still love the end of Paul W.S. Anderson's first Resident Evil film, when Alice comes out of the Umbrella Hospital and it's just all hell. Like there's nobody. Raccoon City is just in shambles. Like the outbreak has happened and she just stands there and cocks the shotgun and the camera pulls out on her, and just this, in empty, foggy Raccoon City. Like that would be awesome. It would be awesome if you ended the first film, you do the mansion incident, you do all of that really, really well. And then part 2, you can explore Raccoon City. I think the fact that they tried to combine 1 and 2 didn't work as well. If you would have kept 1 its own film, and then you could have combined 2 and 3, because 2 and 3 take place at the same time, like simultaneously of each other. But it just felt weird without Nemesis. It felt weird without getting to see Umbrella trying to close off the city and cover up what was happening. And it felt rushed. I felt like, I don't know. I felt like I wanted to see more of the decline of Raccoon City over those 12 hours.
Yeah, because if you noticed at the end of that movie, they pretty much did away with 90% of Raccoon City's storyline.
Yeah.
They pretty much did, because they destroyed the city, and the only final boss was Dr.
Birkin. It was Birkin.
Dr. Birkins, and he's supposed to be ousted in the first game.
Yeah.
And then in the next 2 games was going to be about Nemesis. But we didn't get that. So pretty much what that movie pretty much said was, hey, you got the first boss, but Nemesis, who's that?
That's I'll tell you what. And Apocalypse did Nemesis really well because it built it up. It wasn't just like, oh, there's Nemesis. Bye, Nemesis. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like, there he is, and it's gone. There he is, then it's gone.
They built him up to be like Alice's boyfriend, I guess, his boy toy, to be like mutated.
Well, it was Matt. It was
virus.
Matt from the first Resident Evil. They turned him into Nemesis because he was infected and his body started mutating, and they were like, hey, before he fully mutates, like, let test on him, like, go, like, you know, they saw him mutating after the liquor like hurt him or whatever, and like once he was infected, and the Umbrella people started going, write that down, and they threw. That's when you get the put him. I want him in the Nemesis program, you know, and that was done really well. I wasn't really a fan of the way they did Raccoon City. Raccoon City kind of just seems like Richmond, Kentucky, if you've ever, like, it really did. It wasn't like a city. It wasn't like in the games and in even in Resident Evil Apocalypse, like Raccoon City is, I mean, it's not New York, it's not LA, it's not Chicago, but it's a city still. I mean, it's got high rises, and it's, you know, again, it's a city. It's like a, I don't know, like I would say like a St. Louis or a Cleveland maybe, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because we only got
it's still a city.
Yeah, in this movie, we only got like what, 4 streets probably. I could probably count it. I could probably count the amount of streets.
Unless there was more that we didn't see, but I mean, you even got kind of where they pulled out, and you kind of saw the city as a whole.
They got the panel view of the town.
It didn't look. Yeah. It didn't. I didn't get Raccoon City vibes from it. You know what I mean? But again, that's not to say all of these criticisms. That's not to say that we didn't like Welcome to Raccoon City. That's not to say that it didn't do a good job. I wasn't a fan of how much they had to cut out in order to combine those first 3 games. Because if you really think about it, that's Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, all thrown into one movie. The next logical chapter is Code Veronica and then Resident Evil 4. And I don't envision, unless we do a time jump, I don't envision this Leon being on the Secret Service and going to Europe to save Ashley Grant. Like, I don't see that happening. It doesn't make sense for what they've done, you know?
No, not at all. And so far, all we have are like zombies and liquors, and probably and mutated. Yeah. So, and in Resident Evil 5, isn't there like some type of like supernatural like thing that's going on or something like that?
Oh, there's tons, dude. They haven't even scratched the surface of the creatures and the mutated animals and things like that they could do. You know,
exactly. So,
and we did get the dog too. We got the dogs.
The dog. The CGI behind that was pretty trash. But that's not a part of like story wise. That's just budget wise, which is understandable. But my question still stands: is why is that the case? Like, why is it writers and directors have trouble, or they never seem to be able to hit the mark on video game adaptations? Like, why is that? Why is it that Paul W.S. Anderson went the way he did, and why did old boy from Raccoon City went the way he did as well?
I don't know. I mean, let's look at the Paul W.S. Anderson films. I really enjoy all of them for what they're worth. I think the first 2 are really, really good, actually. And again, he had to cut stuff out too. His story is a little bit different. He didn't do, Alice is not a character in the video games. Alice was made up for this. The mansion was done a little bit differently. It's not a straight adaptation, but there's something that feels a little bit more Resident Evil than Welcome to Raccoon City did. So I guess I'm slightly a little bit more forgiving of it.
I would say this: the first Resident Evil had the same vibe as the Doom adaptation with Dwayne The Rock Johnson, except it was more. Except it had more of a Resident Evil vibe in my eyes. And some of you guys may agree with me, but the Doom adaptation was pretty trash as well.
Dude, their dogs were the best. The Paul W.S. Anderson. They were literal like Doberman pinchers with prosthetic like makeup on them and like, you know, like prosthetic appliances. Like they were scary looking. They were scary.
I think they were still like, I think during that time, prosthetics were still like a main stage of that time.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, oh, how CGI can we get and make it look good?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not working out right now.
That we're gonna take like a half a season or whatever of Purely and Simply Evil, and we're gonna do all of the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil films. They just something about it, like that first one was legitimately it felt Resident Evil. It felt, you know, if you're a fan of the original games, you know, there were moments, especially in the first three, with the fixed camera angles and the way, you know, I was actually listening to something on my way home, kind of, you know, getting my thoughts ready and about the history of Resident Evil. When they did Resident Evil 3, you know, they were like, okay, we got to kind of up it a little bit. We got to up the replay value. We got to make things a little harder. Plus, like, you got to think this is PS1 days. They were trying to discourage renting the game. They wanted people to buy it to make more money, duh. So they made it harder. There was a 7 zombie minimum per scene, or like per scenario. So like at any point in Resident Evil 3, you would not see less than 7 zombies at a time. They wanted you to feel like you were in a horde in Raccoon City, like you were just completely surrounded and you're literally just trying to fight your way through them. And there are a few moments in that first Resident Evil film I think about when they're up on the rafters after Michelle Rodriguez's character is bit, and stuff like that. And like they're climbing up on the rafters and all the zombies are reaching up for them and they're bloody and they're all moaning, and like that was a Resident Evil moment. That it's claustrophobic. The camera angles are fixed. You're up on these rafters, so there's literally only so many like directions you can go. It was good, man. Like those first 2 films had some really, really nice moments in them. And then Extinction happened, and from there on, we kind of got a little bit cheesier and cheesier. You know, the cheese amped
I can
up.
Agree with that.
And I will say, even in the later films, like we did get Chris, we did get Leon, we did get Barry, we did get a few different staples.
As you can see, those were just there to be there.
Exactly. There was no point. It wasn't like, oh, Leon. Yeah, it was like, there's Leon.
There's zero backstories to any single one of them.
There's Chris. There's Barry.
Yeah, you got Chris. When Chris Redfield was introduced in the Paul W.S. Anderson movies, I shit you not, I thought to my head, I was like, bro, they got Eminem in this movie? I was like, that's dope. Because he looked so similar to him. And then I realized, no, it's just another character.
Yeah.
They're just a different actor. So I was like, okay, well, whatever. But still, I didn't feel like the original group from the Resident Evil video games, I didn't think they mattered in those movies. Because the way I see it is, when it comes to a director and video game adaptations, you got to understand that directors want to direct. They have their vision of a movie, and you could say the same thing. You could say the same thing with like the new Halo TV show.
Yeah,
the writers and directors themselves said that they have not played Halo. Mm-hmm. They have never played the game, the Halo franchise.
I don't agree.
They only read up on source material, and they go with it.
You should have.
Which is why we have a maskless Master Chief. That's why we have him talking about all that stuff. That's why we have that type of vibe in that fucking TV show. But that being said, the Halo TV series does do a good job in presenting the lore to all of us, I guess, so to speak. Yeah. Because when you hear like the Spartans talk about like the new equipments and the type of resources that they need and all that mumbo jumbo, this shit sounds interesting. It gets you really gripped in. It expands the lore of it.
Right.
But when it comes to some of these other movies, like Resident Evil, like Paul W.S. Anderson, when it brought up those characters, it didn't add nothing except saying, hey, guess what? The original group is in this movie now. Yeah. But now they're going to go away because we still have to talk about Alice, which don't get me wrong. Alice is a great character, extremely complex in the beginning movies. and then she just became some type of fucking like telepathic like Scarlet Witch that shoots.
But she
That's all I
low-key
got from that.
was. It was like she became a superhero almost. You know
Yeah,
what I
she
mean?
became like Captain America, but for zombies. And
Yeah,
while that's
yeah,
all cool and good for like, and I thought it was cool too. I thought it was dope because guess what? I grew up on Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil. I didn't play the games. That's the Resident Evil I grew up with. And then when I started playing the video games, when I was able to buy my own video games, I realized, well, Paul W.S. Anderson's movies are pretty cool, but the original franchise is absolutely epic.
oh
The
yeah,
entire story, all from Resident Evil 1 to Resident Evil 6, because 7 and 8 are completely different. But it's a pretty big epic. But
yeah.
then so then when I went to go watch Paul W.S. Anderson's movie, it's like, bro, this is night and day, two different
Right.
universes.
Honestly, I thought 7 and 8 were completely different, but I think I'm starting to kind of see the direction they're going. I think honestly, the more and more I play 7 and 8, the more and more I'm like they actually tie into the original games a lot more than I ever
Mm-hmm.
gave them credit for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which and I'll admit I haven't finished Village. I haven't even really finished 7. I did play through 7, but it was a long time ago and I sped through it and I want to like, I'm a person like I know there's these speed runners who are like they buy it the night it comes out and then it's finished by like 5 a.m. I'm not like that. I like to take my time. Like I like to kind of explore the game and see what's going on. I like playing it as if it's a movie. And that's what I always liked about Resident Evil. I think that's what drew me to it, especially what drew me to Resident Evil 4, which was my first major love. I remember playing Resident Evil 4. My dad actually started he played it from the first time they came out. I remember he really liked Survivor too. Resident Evil Survivor, which is actually one of the games that didn't do so hot. It's not regarded as one of the better spin-offs, but I mean it was fun. But they feel like you're playing a movie. You know what I mean? It
Mm-hmm.
feels like you're controlling a movie, and that's what made Resident Evil so special. That's
And
what
that's
makes this
what
franchise so special to me.
and that's what I think a lot of people are continuously disappointed with it. It's the fact that every single one of these games or video games, they're a movie in and of themselves. If you were to go on YouTube and watch Resident Evil, the first video game, watch it straight through, it's its own movie. It's about like an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And it's filled with source material.
That's
If
what
you
I'm
look
saying
at
about Welcome to
Doom
Raccoon
and all
City.
that
Like,
other stuff, yeah, there's so much source material to come from with just one game. And what
even
makes
if
it better is the fact that like I know movies are usually like the shortest runtime I've seen is like an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and 15 minutes. And the longest one, obviously, we know is like 3 hours. So there's a area between an hour and 15 or an hour and a half to like 3 hours is where you can where you can present the story live action wise. And the
right,
story is there for you.
yeah,
Every single sentence, every single action, every single role each one of them plays. And yeah,
mhm,
I get it. Some people just don't want to see a live action remake of the entire video games. I get that. But where I draw the line is what I believe is you can present the game for what it is in a live action. But if you were to expand on the lore, that makes it 10 times better than the video games.
yeah.
But then when you take away from the video games itself and go a different direction, 80% of the time, it's not going to hit. Dare
Well,
I say 95% of the time, it's not going to hit.
I don't know. Paul W.S. Anderson's. I think a couple of issues arose. They strayed too far. There was no time. If they would have gradually made the apocalypse happen, or if they would have waited, maybe if the apocalypse would have happened in Retribution or even in the final chapter. But we went from the mansion/hive incident in Resident Evil to the Raccoon City outbreak in Resident Evil Apocalypse, and then by Resident Evil, I mean, the opening to Resident Evil Extinction is Alice saying, you know, the T virus spread around the world, societies collapsed, you know, governments failed, you know, they couldn't stop the outbreak, and the you know, the pandemic took everybody and whatever. Like, there was no, we didn't get to see that. So now it's like, okay, well, now you're playing in this post-apocalyptic world. We don't have any of these characters. That's why, like, Leon was just like, well, shoehorn him in there. Let's get Chris, shoehorn him in there. Even some of the villains, is it in Retribution or Afterlife maybe, that the axe dude, the executioner dude from Resident Evil 5 shows up? I was like, what the that didn't make any sense. It makes zero sense for him to be there. And I mean, I'm sorry, but it doesn't. It makes no sense. You know, and they did some cool things with Umbrella. Like, you know, Wesker was really well done. I loved the fight scene between Chris and Claire and Wesker, when Chris, like, the whole brother sister fighting Wesker thing, like, that was really cool. But
that storyline wasn't well done either.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It was like, it was good, and then Extinction happened and it dipped a little bit, and then it was like every movie just kind of dipped a little bit more and a little bit more. And honestly, I think for me, if I was going to rank Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil movies, it would pretty much just be a steady decline. Like, I think it would pretty much be in order. Same kind of with the Elm Streets. I think they're almost like in order. You know what I mean? In order in terms of what I would rank them, you know? So I don't know. I do think, man, though, look, Paul W.S. Anderson's, at least it stayed different. I'm telling you.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. It deliberately stayed different.
And I can respect that. I respect that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I don't respect Welcome. I just know there's going to be people in the comments and people who are listening to this, and they're going to be like, "You guys aren't real fans. You're not. Blah, 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 blah." We are real fans. But also, we're having a conversation on a podcast. Like, chill out. Like, you know what I mean? We're not. If you know better, then why didn't you make the movie? Because we didn't. Okay, it's okay. You'll be fine. But I'm telling you, man. Welcome to Raccoon City. The mansion. Listen, the stuff at the mansion was incredibly well done. It was really, really, really spot on. The whole thing with Chris, and I liked the zombies in Welcome to Raccoon City. I did. It was different. But it was kind of true to Resident Evil, and it was kind of true to the game still. It had the whole, typically in Resident Evil, the first three, the zombies were the typical Romero, the wobbling, walking zombies, like what you get in The Walking Dead. That you could have made the mansion into a terrifying hour and 20-minute film on its own. Just following these characters as they uncover more clues and uncover more clues behind Umbrella and all the pharmaceutical stuff and the illegal experiments, until you build to they escape the mansion, and then you end with the Raccoon City outbreak. And then you set yourself up for a sequel. Like, that's what I would have done. I don't know exactly what it would have looked like. I know you can't have every villain, every monster, every cutscene in the movie, but that's kind of the direction that I would have taken Welcome to Raccoon City if it were me.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that, because everything that happened in the mansion, the scariest part of Welcome to Raccoon City was at the mansion.
Yeah.
Nothing about Raccoon City you technically scared me or felt Resident Evil-ish, I guess. When it came down to Chris using a lighter and his knife to fuck up those zombies,
that was cool.
That was pretty eerie, pretty scary. The introduction to the zombies, shot for shot, frame by frame, exactly how the game went. The first introduction to the zombies in the mansion was shot by shot, I would say. And that was pretty impressive. And that goes to show that a true adaptation would have been just as scary.
I love that.
And then you have that hallway with the lighter. You have the hallway with the lighter. I don't think that was in the games, but it was pretty impressive. Those moments right there is where I was like, a true video game adaptations with expanded like scenic views and like stories can succeed.
That whole sequence with Chris, that felt Resident Evil. That truly felt Resident Evil. I love that scene, by the way. Even in the games, even they did it really well in Welcome to Raccoon City. When the zombie like lifts its head up and it just turns its head like sideways, and you see him kind of starting to look, and he's and he's sitting there chewing, and the blood is dripping. Like, oh, that's an awesome scene. It's a really good scene. So we've kind of talked a little bit about our thoughts on Paul W.S. Anderson's franchise and the Johannes Roberts Welcome to Raccoon City film, which again we are fans of. I actually really look forward to doing the Resident Evils and Purely and Simply Evil, which is our horror show. They're gonna be a lot of fun to talk about, and they're gonna be a lot of fun to do because they're a blast. They are. Listen, if nothing else, they are an absolute blast to watch. Even the bad ones.
Yeah,
they really are.
Both Paul W.S. Anderson and what's her name? Johannes what?
Roberts.
Johannes Roberts. Both of those directors, it's a fun ride. I'll say that. But again, when you put up Resident Evil's tagline, you want to see Leon, you want to see Chris fuck up some zombies. And you want to see Ada Wong, and you want to see Leon simping over Ada Wong. And that's pretty much what you want to see. But when you don't get that, and you have the Resident Evil tagline on it, I'm left slightly disappointed. But nonetheless, if it's a good story, it's a good story.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when the Netflix series was announced, I was like, oh, okay, this could be really good or it could be really bad. And when I first read the synopsis, this was probably about a year ago or so when the first synopsis came out, I was like, next. I was like, nope, sounds terrible, does not sound interesting. Even the first trailer, I was like, okay, it looks decent. It looks really well done. I'm kind of down. But Miguel, I gotta admit, man, the more and more I see and hear about this Netflix series, the more I feel very open to the story that they're trying to tell, which is kind of odd. I didn't expect that of myself, but I'm kind of like, might be okay.
And I would tell you this. I would tell you why. It's because they are moving away from the storyline and they're creating their own with some callbacks. Because if I'm not mistaken, this is supposed to be about Wesker's son.
It's about Wesker's daughters. His
daughters. My apologies.
And Wesker is in this movie. The first thing that is the thing that I was like that got me on board, and I have to say it was the thing that really got me on board with this. The show is the show is canon to the games. The games happened. The events of Resident Evil, Resident Evil 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are canon in this show, which is interesting. Bear with me here. Interesting because it's like, okay, if it's set within the game's universe, and everything that's happened within the main storyline has happened, that's kind of relieving to me. Like, at first I thought it really would kind of be its own standalone thing. It wouldn't really, I thought it would feel weird in comparison to the rest of the games, but like, I'm kind of, if we can play around with the source material in this way, I'm okay with this. Like, I'm good. We can do this. We can figure it out. Is it Andrew? Let me see. I don't know. Andrew Dabb. I almost said Anthony. Andrew Dabb, who is the showrunner, had this to say on comicbook.com when he was asked whether or not, he was asked why the Netflix series and Welcome to Raccoon City are releasing so close to each other. And this is what he had to say. They were developed almost simultaneously, said Dabb, speaking to a group of media. And in some ways, that was very freeing for us because the number one thing you'll see from fans, we just talked about this a little bit ago, is they want a straight adaptation. Well, the good news is they have it, and it's a very well done adaptation of the first two games. And so for us, it was like, okay, well, they're doing that. Let us go and kind of forge our own path. So it's not a coincidence. It was kind of designed that way. And the idea being that, these two things can exist side by side again, because everything Welcome to Raccoon City is exploring and subsequent movies explore are things that happen in our world. That doesn't mean we're going to be sharing actors and things like that. That becomes more complicated. Obviously, their Wesker is not young Lance Reddick, but that was a choice that was made by Constantine, and to add, and to kind of develop the most on page. So we learned a couple of things from that. The games are canon. And I was actually kind of reading about Wesker, because Wesker dies in Resident Evil 5. Chris and Sheva kill Wesker on the volcano at the end of Resident Evil 5.
Yeah.
And he's even said there's a good reason that Wesker is still alive in this show. So Wesker somehow survived the events of Resident Evil 5, which is interesting.
Well then my question is, what the fuck happened to Wesker's son in Resident Evil 6? Because there was a huge
I don't know. That's a good question. You're right. That's a good question.
So but that's not to downplay the fact that this might be a terrible adaptation. This is just my curiosity, because this is, what dare I say, expanding the story, pushing it forward, creating new storylines with it, not just creating a story within the major timelines.
Right.
And I think that's pretty that's a pretty good decision to make right there.
Yeah, and I can, when he even says like it was freeing to them because everybody just wants a straight adaptation, I kind of appreciate, and I, like you even said a little bit ago, I respect the fact that they want to forge their own path. They want to tell their own story. They're like, yes, the games happen. You still, if you want to get the main storyline, go play the games. But this is our version of what happens after the games. He even said, the village in Resident Evil Village exists. Like, all of this stuff that has happened in the games, you have to remember, in this universe, there is a Leon Kennedy. There is, like, our whole studded cast of people, because there are a lot of main characters in this game. Chris, Leon, Jill, Claire, everybody, they all exist in this universe. So that kind of made me, I was like, okay, I can respect that. I understand that, that they might really use the source material. I mean, it won't be a straight, I have the hiccups, I'm so sorry. It won't be a straight adaptation, but my only hope and my prayer is that they use the source material well. You know what I mean? Which, again, has been my biggest issue with all of the other live Resident Evil adaptations. Now, another thing that I actually saw this morning from Netflix Geeked. I don't know if this was leaked. I don't know what it is, but it has me all kinds of intrigued. Now, Resident Evil 4 is arguably my favorite video game of all time. Like, between my dad and I, we probably beat that game close to 20 times or more. It's never gotten old. And now, the thing I'm talking about is, if you're a Resident Evil 4 fan, it's one of the coolest sequences in the game, specifically Dr. Salvador, the chainsaw dude, better known as the chainsaw guy from Resident Evil 4.
Bruh, he looks like a fucking clan member from the Django. He says, shit, I can't see fucking shit out of this thing.
He's just swinging the chainsaw, right?
Yeah.
So, the chainsaw dude, it has been shown by Netflix Geeked that the chainsaw dude is in the Netflix series, which is all kinds of interesting to preach to the choir. Like, what? Why? Which, okay, to be fair, it makes sense. If the games are canon, Las Plagas is canon, Ouroboros is canon, all of the other viruses, all of the other, because in 4 and 5, and 6, they had done kind of the parasite thing. So maybe the parasite gets a hold of somebody, and we get Dr. Salvador, we get the chainsaw guy, and it looks like zombies behind him. That looks pretty sick. I'm excited. That's another thing. I was like, okay, let's get lit, man. Like, that's exciting. That's pretty cool. I also took a screen grab of the liquors from the second, which the second trailer's already dropped. The liquors look pretty good. These aren't very high quality because it kind of happened pretty quickly. But honestly, I think that liquor looks better than the Welcome to Raccoon City liquor. Again, no offense to those guys. It looked fine, but that is a cool looking liquor. even when he opens his mouth. That's sick.
It looks like a body inside out. Like it really does. That shit looks
It looks
wet
sick.
and disgusting and shit like that. Yeah, it looks like a live animal right there.
You know what gets me is look at his hand. Like look at like the hand. You see the white veins like on top of the flesh.
Yeah,
That
you can see that with
looks
you can say
good.
that you can say that for the entire body too.
I know it looks really good, man. I'm super excited. The liquors are awesome. The liquors are one of the definitely like top 10 coolest creatures in the games. So those seeing the chainsaw dude, seeing the liquors again, a part of me was like, okay. We actually got a little bit more of the dogs. There was also a giant caterpillar, which is interesting. I guess that's kind of going to be the snake, like the giant snake that you get in the first game. That's kind of going to be the snake of this one, which kind of looked dope too. And then I had an article I wanted to pull up real quick and kind of read through about the Netflix series, because again, there are some interesting things that have kind of come out since we were planning this.
It doesn't suck even a little bit.
I know, right? So this is coming to us from The Gamer. I saw 2 episodes of Netflix's Resident Evil, and it doesn't suck even a little bit. We spoke to Resident Evil showrunner Andrew Dabb and saw 2 episodes of the Netflix show, and it turned out to be pretty good. Written by Eric Schweitzer. This was from 5 days ago. So, right before the kind folks at Netflix hit play on the first episode of Resident Evil, showrunner Andrew Dabb poked his head into the conference room and told us that the events of the show take place on the same timeline as the video game series. In other words, everything that has ever happened in the games has also happened in the universe of the show. The lights dimmed, and for the next 2 hours, I scratched my head, wondering how any of this could possibly align with the history of the games. I'm mystified by how this show fits into the canon, but I'm intrigued. And that's interesting to me. I like that, because it's like, okay, weird, we're doing something different, but it's almost like, I don't know, okay, go on. Like, that's the vibe I'm getting from this. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird. It's like, it's weird, but I like it. You know?
Yeah, but again, what I would say is like I'm asking these questions as a curious fan that will be watching the show. Is if Wesker is going to be in it and it deals with the daughters of Wesker, does that mean we're gonna get? Yeah, is that why? Where is gonna be Leon? Where is Chris? Because those are main foils of. No, it's actually Chris. Chris is a main foil of Wesker. Like, they're arch enemies, I guess. Dare you say? So. Are they going to be in it? That's another question I should ask.
Yeah.
And not entirely sure where that plays in. But again, this is just a further plot within this franchise. And I like that. I like that direction that they're going with. Because if you are not going to do if you're going to do a video game adaptations, you don't need to recreate the wheel, so to speak.
Right.
You just got to keep that wheel going. That's the best way I can describe a video game adaptation.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So going on, Resident Evil, the Netflix series, follows Albert Wesker, played by Lance Reddick, and his 2 teenage daughters, Jade and Billy, who have just moved up to the South African company town, New Raccoon City, run by the duplicitous Umbrella... Duplicitous. I don't know why I couldn't say that. Umbrella Corporation. Wesker, you might remember, exploded in a pool of lava at the base of a volcano after Chris Redfield shot him with a rocket launcher in the final moments of Resident Evil 5. So seeing him alive and well and working for the company he betrayed is one of the show's more palpable mysteries, at least for hardcore fans. So there's Miguel. There's your stereotypical. There's a rocket launcher at the end of it. You know what I mean? There's always a rocket launcher when you need it. I don't really understand, because if you remember the end of Resident Evil 5, Wesker is in lava.
I did not know that I didn't know that Lance Reddick. Yeah. I didn't know Lance Reddick was going to be playing Albert Wesker.
Lance Reddick is playing Wesker. And it's interesting because 5 took place in Africa, so I guess he stayed in Africa, if New Raccoon City is in Africa. I don't know. That's interesting.
I'm curious to know where that story goes. See, okay, look, there you go. See, this is what I'm saying. They're not trying to change anything from the original timeline that the video games established. They are pushing forward towards another story or pushing the narrative further past the games. That's cool. That is cool. I don't mind that.
If it's done well, and if the if they use the source material well.
I will say that.
If they don't use the source material well, then I literally don't care. I'm sorry, but I don't.
Yeah, because guess what? The new trilogy of Star Wars is canon, and that's trash, dog. So
is it really trash? Is it trash though?
It's not good.
It's like C. It's like
it's exactly what I'm saying right now. They presented our main following characters, called it the Skywalker Saga, and then proceeded to fuck over the Skywalkers in the saga.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much where I'm getting at.
Yeah, I get that.
So that's pretty much what happened. They said, hey, these next 3 movies are canon, but guess what? You Skywalker fans, fuck you. That's pretty much where we got. So again, that could happen with this TV show. Who knows? But nevertheless, I'm willing to walk into this TV show the same way I walked into the Star Wars new trilogy, with open eyes and an open mind, because I'm excited to see what they see. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, fuck you. That's my opinion.
And an open heart.
Eat my sorry little ass.
All right, moving on. Excuse me. The show alternates. This is another thing that's really interesting. The show alternates between 2 timelines.
I knew it.
In the present, Wesker is under pressure to finish development of a revolutionary new medication called Joy that is designed to make the whole world happy or perhaps compliant. It isn't quite ready for market, according to Wesker, due to unfortunate outbreak of the T variety, if you catch my drift. So this, I don't know why Umbrella feels the need to keep coming back and using the T virus. The T virus literally has caused countless outbreaks. It is arguably the most dangerous thing on the planet. And they're like, the T virus, it's the key. It's the key for everything. You know, I don't understand. So did you think there was going to be 2 timelines in the show?
Yeah, I knew it was going to play. I knew it was going to play with like previous histories and then focusing. It's like callbacks.
Yeah.
Because if this is a further narrative of the games, you have to do some flashbacks to be like, okay, this is why that happened.
Right.
So I pretty much we're gonna get Wesker swimming out of the fucking volcano, I guess. No, I'm kidding.
Meanwhile, twins Jade and Billy are struggling to adjust to life in a new country at a new high school with a father who's completely unavailable. The first episode, this is very interesting too. The first episode has a lot more high school drama than I expected from a Resident Evil show, but it's to the benefit of the characters and to our understanding of their relationship dynamics. The show has a lot of world building to do before the shit inevitably hits the fan, and it manages to establish both Jade and Billy as dynamic, compelling characters in an extraordinarily short amount of time. If you're worried this is Riverdale with zombies, you won't be by the end of the first episode. So, what do you... The drama thing, the high school drama, is interesting to me. It sounds like, from this description, it sounds like we're really focusing on Billy and Jade, which is Wesker's children. Like, we're really focusing on those 2 characters and kind of how they're navigating this, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, because you have to establish like what life is like at that very moment.
Right.
And then I could totally see the show going like this. Wesker and his kids are going to this new place, and the kids have to adjust to this new high school or all that other bullshit.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, as you know, one of Wesker's daughter goes to sleep. She wakes up, and now she's in present day, so to speak. So like the first hour is going to be like a past timeline, and then it's going to jump into like present day timeline where the world is fucked up. Kind of the same way the trailer works. You remember how like she lays down, she wakes up, and boom, she's in fucked up land.
Yeah.
So I can totally see that happening. So
there's the joy pill that they're working on, trying to, I guess, make people happy. Maybe it's just a constant stream of dopamine in your head at all times.
tell me why that looks like. That looks like. You know that Disney movie? I think it's Disney movie where like it's a medicine. Like they're fighting and like they're fighting germs and whatnot.
Are you talking about
You're gonna
Osmosis Jones?
Osmosis Jones. He looks like what's his name?
I don't think that's a Disney movie.
Is it not?
I don't think that's a Disney movie. I don't know what that is. I don't think it's Disney though. I was gonna say, I was like, you're comparing.
Oh, it's Warner Bros.
I was like, you're comparing a bloody pill and yellow paste to a Disney movie. I was like, the what?
Bro, but tell me I'm wrong. Look, tell me why he doesn't look exactly. Oh, fuck me. There it is. Look at that.
A little bit.
Tell me why he doesn't look like old boy with the fucking cannon.
Maybe.
I forgot what his name is, but
the pill. The pill looks like
the pill. And that's who he is, and that's who he is in Osmosis Jones. He's a pill. He's like isn't he like the penicillin like cop that takes down germs?
It has been ages since I've seen Osmosis Jones. That's awesome though. I kind of forgot that movie existed until just now. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like, dog.
That's awesome. So moving on. But that's just half the story. The rest of it takes place in a post-apocalyptic 2036 after what we can assume is a world-ending outbreak in New Raccoon City. That damn Umbrella Corporation never learns. Adult Jade is studying the zombies called Zeros and understanding how the new T-virus changes over time. An unfortunate series of events leads her to getting attacked by an awesome-looking 80-foot mutant caterpillar. I told you there was a caterpillar in one of the trailers. An awesome-looking 80-foot mutant caterpillar. That sounds like the most Resident Evil thing I've ever heard in my life. Before being dragged off to a survivors' settlement by scrappers. Soon after, she discovers she's being hunted by Umbrella Corp operatives who are apparently still causing trouble. Oh, boy. Even at the end of the world, which is interesting. So, hauled off to a camp by scrappers. I'm almost getting slight Walking Dead vibes from this. You know what I mean? Like, not a lot, just slight. Like, there's communities of people that have survived, the pandemic and the apocalypse and whatever else, which is interesting. Discovering the events that connect these two timelines is at the core of the first season's 8 episodes, which defines the common label of live-action adaptation. After the screening, Andrew Dabb sat down for a brief Q&A and compared his approach with the series to the MCU, which we're going to come back to that in a minute, which doesn't adapt comics directly but pulls from the storylines to build something new. That is very much how we approached this, Dabb says. We're trying to be very conscious, and the games are our canon. We did not consciously violate any rules from the games, but at the same time, it's not a direct adaptation of the games. So they approached this almost in the same way that Disney and Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios has approached the MCU, where it's not a straight adaptation of the comic books, but they're using the comic books to build something new. They're telling a new story, kind of a retelling of the same thing. So even though the games are canon, I guess this really is going to be something new and different that we haven't seen before. So how do you feel about that? They're setting up a universe.
I mean, sure.
Because everything's got to be a universe now. Right.
Yep. As per usual. As I hope that when they do try to build it, they're not just trying to throw everything at you. It's like, leave seeds for us to figure out.
Yeah.
Leave seeds for us to question what's going to happen next.
Right.
Because it's like, bro, that's even more dope. Because if you look at the MCU, again, say this over and over, the MCU is its own thing. It pulled from different stories, but thanks to the multiverse now, they can go to
anything is possible.
Anything is possible. This is Earth 616, and the comics universe is something completely different than the MCU universe.
Right.
So that's fine. That's fair. You can take stories and make a different narrative out of that.
Yep.
But again, when you try to do adaptations and try to make it exactly like the game, but then build something else, but then like change the way it goes, change the rules, as he says, That's when you violate, not violate, but like that's when you like cross a line of like what a video game adaptation really is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
That approach is different from both the Milla Jovovich Resident Evil series and last year's Welcome to Raccoon City, which more or less faithfully adapted the first two games. This story is at once tied to the canon and free from it, which struck me as a winning combination for Resident Evil fans and newcomers, at least based on the first two episodes. And that's an interesting way to think about it too. It is tied to the canon. They still have to play around in that universe with those things that have happened, but at the same time, it is kind of free because it's its own story. You're not honestly, and that's why I say maybe there's hope for this. Maybe there is hope for this series because they don't have to rely on retelling the story of the games and pleasing fans. They can do their own thing and still please fans because it's still canon to the games. The games still matter. The story and the things that happen in the games still matter.
yep,
I
you're
think
pushing the narrative. You're not changing established
yes,
characters within
yes.
their timeline.
Yes, 100%. That's perfect way of putting it. Dab reassured us that yes, the show does address the fact that Wesker died in 2009. There is a very good reason Wesker is back, he says, and it does not come down to the fact that he was wearing lava and rocket launcher proof clothes. Dab says we'll see at least a couple of characters from the games in the first season and hopefully more if Netflix picks up the show for a season 2. The showrunner was interested in exploring iconic characters we haven't seen in recent games. What were they doing during that time? In some cases, we kind of know if you've been following games. In some cases, we literally have no idea, he says. So it created some interesting opportunities for us. That's interesting. So, again, there is hope. I'm telling you, I think there might be hope. There is an opportunity to pull in Chris and Leon and a lot of the iconic characters that we've wanted for all this time. Maybe to explore, listen, 2036, and I don't know when. I mean, I guess Resident Evil Village takes place in 2022. So, I mean, that's 14 years in the future. So, I mean, you have 14 years to explore and figure out where is Chris? Where has Leon been? Like, where have all of these different people been in the last, or what is it 14 years? I'm thinking about that, right? That's how math works?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. But like you have all that time to explore that and to try to figure out, well, this is where they've been. These characters have been here, and you can kind of do that. I was reading another thing, and he may even mention it further down in this article, that I think they are interested in a season 2. I think like 100% they want to do multiple seasons of this show.
Yes. So what that means is that they already have a season 2 like in place. They know where they want to go with it.
Yeah.
They're not just throwing everything at the board and saying, well, this is what we have.
This is all we're going to get greenlit for.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the way I hope that it's going to go. They're going to keep the story at a cliffhanger and not trying to rush anything, I hope. And then that way it can be picked up.
Let me ask you this. We're big. Do you think that's where Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City suffered? Do you think they were like, I don't know if we're going to get a sequel. We better just go at it for this one movie.
100%.
That might have been a concern for the for production. That might have been a crew for the a crew for the I need to go to bed. A concern for the writers is that maybe they thought, well, if we don't get a sequel, we got to try to throw it all at the wall. You know what I mean? We got to try to just do our adaptation and do it well. That's true, man. Again, you got to think about everything. And again, this is by no means are we trying to,
I'm not trying to hit on the fucking Welcome to Raccoon City. I'm just saying that there are factors within the movie industries that hinders a properly well-made video game adaptation movie from being that.
Yeah.
And the question is, can we do that? Can we make a good video game adaptation and still do a good job in telling the story without the fear of possibly not getting a sequel, not getting a second season, and not knowing if we're going to get anything else? The fact that at Welcome to Raccoon City that they threw everything plus the kitchen sink on the screen in hopes of saying, "Oh, this is a great movie. We want to see more." That's why
Right.
I'd say that's probably one of the downfalls of Welcome to Raccoon City. Again, not saying it's a downfall. What I'm saying is that's one of the things that didn't really sit right with me was the fact that I knew from the get-go or by the end was like, oh, you're trying to throw everything at the wall and hope that the studio picks up a sequel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Because
and again,
you know how quick sequels can come, right? Like it's literally within like a week after a movie is dropped, it's established. There's a sequel.
Yep. And
yeah, all it takes is a week.
well, it's
And guess
based
what,
on
guys?
box office though too. I mean, if it comes
Yeah.
out and it's destroying at the box office, they're like, go, you know.
Yep. And guess
And
what,
again,
guys? Has there been a sequel announced for Welcome to Raccoon City? Not at all.
Dave McRae
I ain't
says this
heard
on his
shit.
show all the time. Making movies is hard, and that I listen. I'm not saying we could do it better. Again, we're coming at this from fans and two guys who get on YouTube and make fools of themselves on the internet. Like that's what we're coming at this from. You know what I mean? I think our ideas are valid, but again, this is not to degrade or to downplay any of these adaptations. I mean, they're all great in their own right. Again, we're thinking about this as fans. So going back to this article to wrap it up real quick, production for Resident Evil began before Resident Evil Village came out, of course, Resident Evil 8. But Dab says those events do happen concurrently with the events of the show. Village is part of our lore, he explains. If we want to put a giant vampire lady in season 2, we can. I'm not saying we're going to, but it's an option. Even more intriguing is the promise of revisiting familiar plot points from the series. When asked about Wesker's past, Dab says we'll see flashbacks to things both from the games and from the game timeline. Dab recognizes that the world of Resident Evil is vast and difficult to track. Between games, spin-offs, animated films, and comics, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard for even die-hard fans to keep up. What I wanted to do is create something that you could come to if you've played one game or seen one movie, you can enjoy it. And if you've played nothing and never seen a movie, you can still enjoy it, he explains. My hope is for those people, this can be a gateway to a wider world of Resident Evil. I hope you will jump in with both feet because they're fantastic games. And Resident Evil, of course, debuts on Netflix on July 14th worldwide. So there you have it. There, I don't know why I said that. There you have it. There you have it for
you lost for words, my guy.
I really am. I'm telling you, my brain is in about a million different places. There you have it. The Resident Evil series, man. I think there's some potential there. I really do. I think they're coming at it from the right angle. Again, like you had said earlier, use the lore, but don't rewrite it. You know, don't completely scrap everything and redo it your own way. Just kind of nudge it. Just kind of tie it along as you wish. You know, I think it'll be cool to see, to kind of see where these characters have been at, and you know, of course, my question is when they do Resident Evil 9, are they going to make Resident Evil 9 canon? You know what I mean? I mean, I think we're still a few years away from a sequel to Village, and who knows? This series could come out and not get a season 2 because it sucks. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see. From what I've seen, I will say I think the animation looks really good. Honestly, the animation that I saw in the trailers, at least, I think might even look a little bit better than Welcome to Raccoon City.
Oh,
I don't know what their production budget is. The dogs look really good, as we kind of showed before. These images of the lickers. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. The images of the lickers look really good. They look scary and gross. We also get the chainsaw dude from Resident Evil 4. Like, there's a lot of cool things that they can do with this series. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. We're going to give it a watch. Again, we are not at all trying to degrade or trying to, tear apart Paul W.S. Anderson's franchise or, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Those are all awesome in their own right. And we love watching those movies. I mean, again, Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil movies have meant a huge deal to me as a movie fan and as a horror fan. they've given me a whole lot. They've given me the love for horror that I have. So again, I love this franchise, and I really care about this story and about this lore and this source material, and I just want to see it done well.
Properly.
Exactly. I want to see it done properly. I want to see him do justice to it. So, Miguel, any final thoughts before we skedaddle for the evening?
I will say this.
Can I have your social security number?
No. So I'll say this. So yeah, I'm excited for the Resident Evil TV show. But to end the subject on like video game adaptations in of itself, there's plenty of other projects coming out that are video game adaptations, and we bear witness to most recent video game adaptations and how they don't really hit the mark as much.
Yeah.
I think until like I would say until like studios and directors and writers can figure out a decent happy place to say, okay, we have this massive epic of lore. How do we make a good story out of it?
Yeah.
Until they are able to work together, we're going to continuously get movies like Super Mario Bros. Remember those? And Uncharted and fucking Doom and all these other movies. Like when studios, writers, and directors are working well together, you get movies like Sonic and all that stuff. You get those types of movies that are based on video games, but they create a really good story. So
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it takes all parties to work together, conversely, to create a good story about a video game. And until then, we're gonna keep getting different pulls from all sides until and then we get this lump of whatever the fuck we continuously see and we pay money to see. So
whatever lump of what we see. I like that.
Yeah.
As always, guys, please let us know your comments. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments below. That's what I was going for. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight. Please be sure to leave this video a like if you have not already. And definitely we will do a full review of the Netflix series when it comes out. I'm looking forward to watching it. Do you think they'll release it all at the same time, or do you think it'll be like you have to wait a week to see a new one and then wait a week? I kind of think they'll do like the Stranger Things thing and just
leave everything out.
Yeah, I think
I'd say it'd work.
But we'll do a full review of that series when it comes out. Thank you guys so much for watching. New episodes of Let's Talk Movies and Purely and Simply Evil premiere every single Tuesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. and 10 a.m. Eastern. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at We Talk the Movies. You guys are amazing. God bless, and we will talk to you soon. Have an awesome rest of your week. See ya.
See ya.